So good morning, Paul, and welcome to the Breakeven podcast.
Thank you.
So we can start. Could you please tell me a bit about your gambling story and when did you start gambling, etc.?
Absolutely. So I first started gambling when I was at university. I was 19 and it was my first year during Freshers Week. I'd made the decision to go to university and went from studying a BTEC sport course to studying an honours degree, and that was very overwhelming for me. So I chose to take a step back and take a foundation year, and there was a lot of stress at that time because I'd lived away from home for the first time in my life, and had to cook for myself, and I'd never had to do that. So
you had to learn a lot of new tricks.
Yeah, I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn to manage myself and manage my own finances. I mean, I got the grant from university, but I still had to manage that, and that was part of the reason that I started gambling, because I found the love for it at the time.
And when you did start gambling, what did you start gambling on?
Mainly for me it was gambling on sport, so it became sport is a main hobby of mine, so I've got three hobbies: sport, music and drama. They're my three main hobbies at the moment, and sport was where my love was, and I realised that it was a mistake that I hadn't done it before, because I would incorporate my favourite hobby and making money at the time. That's how I considered it.
And when it all started, Paul, how much were you spending, and when did you sort of notice it went from some harmless, fun gambling, you know, because you like sports, to all of a sudden getting out of control, shall we say?
So I was probably spending at university, I was probably spending about £50 a week, and that was because that was all I had available to me, because I had to manage bills on top of that. And it was not until I left university. So I left university and I started working at as a teaching assistant.
So when you were at university, you were gambling, but it was quite controlled gambling.
It was low
level.
level.
You were making sure you could pay your bills.
Yeah. So it was low level gambling then.
Yeah.
And I had a part-time job, so anything extra I had from that I carried on using and gambling with.
So when it started to get out of control when you got the job, how did that happen? Did it sort of creep up on you, or did you notice it?
So it was a job as a teaching assistant, and I think for me, the first time I started paying attention to it was when I wasn't able to afford to get to work. Because I started getting paid monthly, which wasn't something that I'd done before. I'd always had money available to me, and that only lasted 6 months. And part of the reason that only lasted 6 months was because they let me go, because I wasn't punctual. And the reason I wasn't punctual was because I was spending a lot of my time that I should have been sleeping, gambling. And that's when I really first started thinking, hang on a second, this is becoming more of a problem than you realise. But I carried on doing it for 7 years after that.
What do you think made you carry on for 7 years? We know the story with gamblers, they chase their winnings, they certainly chase their losses. Do you think you carried on going for the fun, for the entertainment, for the escape, or were you sort of on a mission to try and get your money back, do you think?
I think it comes down to a lot of things. So for me it comes down to the fact that I actually felt valued. So I felt valued by the bookmaker, because the bookmaker was saying to me, have a free bet, have a free spin. It was never really, for me, it was never really about free spins. I would rarely bet on the slots, but it was mainly about sport for me.
And it was about the affirmation that you felt part of the system and they were being nice to you.
Yeah, it's almost like I felt part of a community. And I felt valued by them, and by them offering me whatever they were offering me at the time.
As the gambling got worse, you say you started to recognise you were gambling more and more, and you couldn't get to work, and you sort of left your job because of that. Did you ever need to borrow money to fund your gambling?
You say borrow money, so I had a student overdraft at the time, and I also then got a credit card out at the time, and this was the time where you could gamble using your credit card. You can't do that anymore, but there are ways around it. Not that I would know anymore because I don't do it. So I did get myself into debt. I was taking up payday loans. I'd probably say I was, over the course of my gambling, maybe in £10,000 worth of debt. But I think for me, the main reason I carried on gambling was because I wanted to get rid of the debt, and I wanted to...
So he was chasing the money, really.
And I wanted to get rid of the student overdraft. And that's the worst thing you can do.
And it is, it's amazing. It's the irrational thought pattern that a lot of gamblers have, that gambling is a good way of getting money, whereas your story and your testimony knows it's a good way of getting into debt. So you realised gambling was a problem. Did anyone else realise you had a problem, Paul? Were you sharing it, still keeping it secret?
Probably a few people closest to me. So some of those closest to me said, we think you've got a problem with your gambling. And I said, I was very in denial at that point, almost because I didn't want to admit that it was a problem, and I wasn't ready to admit it was a problem. Like, there's a saying, so many people can tell you you need to stop gambling, but it's down to one person, and that's you as the individual.
You acknowledge the debt now, but at the time when you were keeping going and trying to win your money back, etc., did you really become aware in your own head of how much problems you were in debt-wise?
I'd say I was always aware of the problem of me being in debt, because I was always receiving these overdraft charges, but I just didn't know how to get out of it. And I saw the only way to get out of it was to carry on gambling. Now, the worst thing for me was I managed to get what I needed to get to clear my debt, which was, at the time, it was £2,000.
So you had a win where you could have got out of it.
What I then did was I said, let's carry on going. And I bet all of that money on that one bet, and it was about £2,000. And I was distraught when I'd lost it, but I don't consider it as losing that money anymore. I consider it as, it was a difficult time for 11 years, and it's certainly not a time I'm going to go back to.
During these tough times when it was really becoming a problem for you, did you ever have any thoughts of taking your own life?
Probably the day that I decided to stop gambling. So the day that I decided to reach out for help. So I reached out to my employee assistance program at work, and they said that it was shocking what they said, to be honest. They said, you need too much support than we can offer you. And I thought to myself...
This is what they said at work?
Yeah. So my employee assistance program at work said this, and I thought to myself, how can you say that to someone? Because it's all about the right support for the right person.
And you needed hope, and they actually gave you no hope with that response.
But that's when I reached out. So after that, if I wasn't in the mind frame I was in at the time, after that I then reached out to GamCare, and GamCare put me in touch with yourselves, and it was the best decision I made to stop gambling that day and to have the support I needed from yourselves.
So you heard about Breakeven through GamCare, and then obviously you made contact with us. How was your time with Breakeven, and how did that help you on your journey? For people listening that haven't, been brave enough or haven't reached out, and they really need, they know they really need to, explain to me a bit more about that process and how it made you feel and how easy it was or wasn't.
So it was made so much easier by yourselves, by Breakeven, because as soon as I had that GamCare referral, that I knew what support I was getting, and I think it was the Saturday, so on the Sunday, the counsellor reached out to me, and it was a very easy experience to have these sessions. I had 6 sessions. I could have had more than 6 sessions, but the counsellor at the time felt I didn't need that. And the hardest thing for me was disassociating sport and gambling. And she made it seem so easy. And as soon as she made it seem so easy, it really was such a weight off my shoulders, because it is so advertised in sport, and it's not a good thing that it's advertised around sport, because that's where they make the most of their money.
Absolutely.
So
you had a few sessions. You said 6 sessions with Breakeven. You managed to find out some things that really helped you. I know that after that you then joined a Green Shoots group, which is a lived experience network that we run. Can you explain again to people that may be listening a little bit what that was about and how you interacted in that?
Yeah, so Green Shoots, so you have a weekly meeting, and it's almost about trying to understand more about why you gambled, and maybe more about that there's a number of, I think it's a 9 session, I did it about a year and a half ago now. It's a 9 session training program, and you meet I think there was about 10 to 15 people in that cohort of people. And after you finish green shoots, the support doesn't stop there. There's an aftercare group that you can choose to go into, which I did choose to go into. Now the aftercare group has recently changed, but it's so nice to have, it's a community at the end of the day. Recently we've had people that have stepped away from the group but have still been in the WhatsApp group, and then one of them recently reached out and said she's been struggling with her gambling. So
for you, Paul, were the members of Green Shoots that then went on to the Breakeven Lived Experience group that's come out of that, it feels like it's a really necessitated group to have, a necessary group for you guys. Some people like to have treatment and never be heard of again. Other people like the continual involvement. And the one thing we Breakeven can benefit from is from this lived experience group, we want to listen to and take advice on what we're doing and what we're not doing, how we can improve our services. So how long is it now since you last placed a bet?
2 years, 5 months and 10 days today.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And do you still have thoughts of gambling, especially when you're doing a podcast like this, or how do you feel about that?
I think the message on that one is that I do still have thoughts of gambling. The difference is that I'm not acting on those thoughts and I'm not acting on those impulses. I think it's important to highlight that you are still going to think about gambling, but the difference is you're not acting on that, and that's where the addiction stops almost.
So, you know, would you say you're out of recovery now? I guess by what you're saying is you're realising that you're always going to be on this journey. Is that the best good way of describing it?
I'll always be in recovery, I think. I think I will never come out of recovery. The only time I'll come out of recovery is if I start gambling. And that's not something that I'm going to do because because I've achieved so much.
Yeah, and you've certainly achieved so much. And one of the things I'm really interested in is how has giving up gambling and on your road to recovery, how has it changed your life? What
changed my life. It's changed my life massively. So I've almost restarted my life in the last just under 2.5 years. I've lost 60 kilos since then. I've also had a right hip replacement, and for the first time last year, I was able to go on a long haul holiday and an expensive holiday as well, because I had the money available to do that.
That's fantastic.
I went with 2 of my best friends and my cousin as well, and I've discovered a new hobby. So it's a new hobby of mine, that, and over the last few days I've just had a mortgage offer accepted on a property, and that is a testament to the work that Breakeven have done, the work that I've done, and the work not only to what those 2 have done, but also my friends and family.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have a great network, Paul, and you've really put your heart and soul into this, and it's amazing to see all the results of giving up gambling, what a better life it's given you. And I want to sort of finish up on what you think about being neurodiverse and what sort of impact that has on your gambling and maybe other people's gambling a bit broader.
I think for me, because I have ADHD and I have mild autism, but I also have physical disabilities as well. And I mean, I think it comes down to having a routine. So gambling was part of my routine, and rather than gambling, I've replaced it with healthy hobbies. For example, spending a lot more time with my friends.
So because you need a routine, it's really important if you're going to stop something that you've got another routine you can step into.
So you replace it. So you replace an unhealthy hobby with a healthy hobby.
Yeah.
So I've replaced gambling with the gym. I was going to the gym before, but I wasn't spending nearly as much time as I am now. And it really is important for me, if you're a neurodiverse, to have a support network around you and to have people telling you how well you're doing, because I have achieved so much and there are so many people that have also achieved a lot, and it's really important, the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, and the work that other NGSNs are doing as well.
Well, let me add to that affirmation, Paul, because you've done fantastically.
Thank you.
Since you picked up the phone to GamCare and finished up with Breakeven and Green Shoots, etc. We know that people with ADHD or autism are twice as likely to experience negative consequences from gambling as people without. I know you said about routines and stuff. Is there anything else you could enlighten us with that why that might be? Why would
I think it was what attracted me to gambling. I think was that the bright lights. So the bright lights of what they were advertising, and it was so broadly advertised as well. I mean, you can play the National Lottery from 16, and that wasn't really an interest of mine. I did do it, but I didn't do it like I did with sport. And my sport gambling, I was gambling on the Norwegian Football League, and I knew nothing about it. And it really is important to raise awareness of stories that maybe won't get that awareness.
Fantastic. Just to add to what you just said, Paul, thankfully, since you realised that very recently, gambling on the lottery has now changed to 18, which is a really good sign, because we shouldn't be, it was a bit of a landmark for people looking like getting your driving licence, or people saying, oh, I can now do the lottery. I can remember lots of occasions with certain people where it became a landmark event. So it's good news it's moved to 18. Paul, just want to say thank you very much for sharing your story. I really hope people benefit from listening to you and your journey. And just to finish up with more affirmation, well done, fantastic.
Thank you, appreciate it.
If you or someone you know is affected by gambling related harm, please call us on 01273 833 722 or visit our website www.breakeven.org.uk. Alternatively, please call the National Gambling Helpline on 0808 8020 133. Please ensure to like and subscribe to all our social media channels and keep this message out there. Thank you.